Imagine the oppressive heat of that fateful summer day in 1590, when the sun hung mercilessly over the shifting sands of the Outer Banks, turning the air thick and heavy with salt and pine. English explorer John White, his face weathered by 3 grueling years at sea, finally steps onto the familiar shores of Roanoke Island after a voyage that felt like an eternity. His heart pounds with anticipation. He pictures his thriving colony of 115 souls. Rugged men hauling timber for new homes, women tending gardens heavy with barley and beans, children chasing crabs along the salt marshes, and most precious of all, his own granddaughter Virginia Dare, now 3 years old, the very first English child born on this wild, untamed continent they dared to call Virginia. White had left them in hope 3 years prior, promising swift return with supplies to build England's foothold against the Spanish Empire. What father, what governor, wouldn't rush home to embrace his family after such separation? But as his boots crunch through overgrown grass toward the village palisade, a chill defies the swelter. No welcoming smoke curls from chimneys, no shouts of joy, no barking dogs, no laughter of playing children echoing through the pines. The fort stands dismantled, not torn apart in panic, but carefully deconstructed, timbers stacked neatly, as if the residents planned a temporary move, salvaging every nail for future use. Houses that once bustled with life, now reduced to faint post holes in the earth, overgrown with weeds that sway mockingly in the breeze. White's men fan out, muskets half raised, calling names into the silence. Eleanor, Ananias, Virginia. Nothing. No signs of violent struggle, no splintered doors, no blood-stained earth, no scattered bones picked clean by scavengers, no graves hastily dug in desperation. The air hangs unnaturally still, broken only by the distant crash of waves against the treacherous shoals that had protected, and now seemingly imprisoned, this outpost. Then his eyes catch it, etched into the pale trunk of a sturdy live oak tree, standing sentinel near the center of what was once the village square. 2 words in bold, deliberate letters, each 3 inches high and freshly carved, no more than weeks old judging by the clean axe marks and oozing sap. Croatoan. Nearby, on a smaller sapling, the incomplete Kiero, perhaps interrupted by dusk or haste. White's stomach drops. This was his code, given to the colonists before departure. Carve your destination if forced to relocate peacefully. Etch a cross above if in distress. No cross. Just Croatoan, the name of Manteo's friendly island, 12 miles south across the shallow Pamlico Sound, a place of oyster-rich shallows and loyal native allies. Relief flickers, then dread. Where are the smoke signals? The piled stones spelling welcome? The personal note for a grandfather? No bodies, no decay, no chaos, just eerie, methodical absence. The wind picks up through the towering Carolina pines, their needles hissing like whispers from the grave. They were here. Now they're gone. What unimaginable force could erase an entire English community? Men with swords and shot, women with iron resolve, children born of New World promise, without a single scream reaching the stars. This was no ordinary disappearance. This was America's oldest unsolved mystery, the lost colony of Roanoke. Welcome to Faded Truth's history, your gateway to the darkest secrets buried by time itself. We're not talking dusty textbooks or sanitized schoolroom tales. These are the stories history tried to forget, the enigmas that have haunted cartographers, presidents, archaeologists, and everyday treasure hunters for over 430 years now. Roanoke isn't just a footnote, it's a black hole in American origins, sucking in every theory from peaceful assimilation to supernatural horror, baffling PhDs, and captivating Netflix documentaries alike. Before we plunge deep into this labyrinth of clues, red herrings, and 21st century DNA bombshells that could rewrite history, I need you to do something crucial for me right now. Smash that subscribe button like John White smashing through Atlantic storms, and ring the notification bell so you never miss these mind-bending deep dives. Because true mysteries like Roanoke, hidden in plain sight for centuries, shrouded by colonial fog, royal cover-ups, and the relentless tide, demand to be resurrected. They're the threads connecting us to the raw, brutal birth of a nation, and they deserve every eye on them. And while you're lighting up those notifications, drop your hottest take in the comments below. What do you think swallowed Roanoke whole? Did they seamlessly blend into the Croatoan tribe, their English blood pulsing through modern native veins? Was it a stealth Spanish death squad from St. Augustine, silencing rivals under moonlight? Or something far more sinister slithering from the untamed American wilderness? Starvation cults, vengeful spirits of wronged tribes, or forces we still can't name? I've pored over the archives, and trust me, the truth is wilder than fiction. Your theory might be the one that cracks it. Now, lean in close, because we're time-traveling back to 1587, when Queen Elizabeth I's audacious chess move to seize the New World from Spain's iron grip lit the fuse on a chain of events so improbable, so perfectly tragic, that it would make an entire community, 115 dreaming souls, vanish without echo, without epitaph, without mercy. The Pines remember. Let's uncover what they hide. Chapter 1. The First Settlers. 1584. Queen Elizabeth's dangerous dream. The spark that lit an empire. Transport yourself back to England in 1584, a misty, rain-lashed island kingdom perpetually shrouded in fog and ambition, dwarfed by the colossal shadow of Spain's unstoppable empire. King Philip II's treasure galleons, heavy laden with plundered Aztec gold bars, stamped with Montezuma's glyphs and shimmering Inca silver ingots that could buy entire European duchies, plough through Atlantic swells monthly, their holds fueling the construction of soaring cathedrals in Toledo, armadas of warships bristling with bronze cannons in Cadiz harbours, and the opulent palaces where Philip plots his next conquest. Queen Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen with her flame-red hair and piercing Tudor eyes, watches from her privy chamber at Whitehall as her own treasury bleeds dry. Taxes from wool merchants and tin mines barely cover the court's velvet gowns and the wages of her ever-growing spy network. English privateers like the legendary Sir Francis Drake return from Caribbean raids as national heroes, their ships like the Golden Hind staggering home under canvas sails, ripped by cannon fire, decks slick with Spanish blood, holds overflowing with prize money totalling £500,000, a sum equivalent to half of England's entire annual national budget, enough to outfit 10,000 soldiers or build 50 warships. Drake himself strides into Greenwich Palace barefoot, his salt-crusted doublet reeking of gunpowder and tropical rum, bucket of Spanish doubloons at his feet as he kneels before Elizabeth. Your Majesty's enemies pay tribute. Yet for all this plunder, England holds no permanent foothold in the New World. No forts, no plantations, no claim to counter Spain's stranglehold from Florida to Mexico. Enter the dashing Sir Walter Raleigh, Elizabeth's favourite courtier and rumoured lover, a towering figure at 6 feet 3 inches with coal-black hair, a pointed beard trimmed to perfection, and eyes that burned with the fire of ambition. Half-brother to Drake, Raleigh carries his family's ancient Devonshire motto etched into his signet ring. Amor patriae ducere naturam. Love of country leads my sons. On March 25th, 1584, in a candle-lit ceremony at Greenwich, Elizabeth grants him a royal patent, her gloved hand pressing hot wax into parchment. Colonize America at your own expense, claim vast territories for the crown, keep 100% of all profits from gold, timber, furs, and trade. No taxes owed, direct challenge to Philip's monopoly. Raleigh, poet and soldier, assembles his reconnaissance fleet in record time. 2 nimble barkentines, the Tiger, 120 tons, 50 crew, under the steady Captain Philip Amadas, and the smaller Roebuck, 80 tons, commanded by the scholarly Arthur Barlow, both stocked with compasses, astrolabes, crossbows, and casks of West Country cider. They slip from Plymouth Harbour on April 27th amid cheering crowds waving rosemary branches for luck, dodging Spanish patrol frigates off the Azores through cunning night sailing and false flags. Landfall comes dramatically on July 4th, Independence Day irony. when the tiger grounds on the Outer Banks. A perilous 200-mile chain of shifting sandbars, dunes whipped by salt gales, and submerged reefs that have already claimed dozens of Spanish wrecks. Nature's own fortress shredding enemy hulls like paper while shielding deeper sounds. Roanoke Island emerges from the haze like a vision from Eden, cradled protectively between those deadly shoals and the glassy calm of Pamlico Sound. 12 miles long, 5 miles wide at its broadest, fringed with live oaks dripping Spanish moss, maritime forests of loblolly pine towering 100 feet, and brackish marshes teeming with blue crabs scuttling through cordgrass. Captain Barlow's letters home to Raleigh, penned by candlelight aboard the Roebuck, paint rapture. We found such plenty of grapes as the very beating and overflow of the same did make a kind of shelf of water upon the ground, cedar trees so straight that a man might make a goodly long arrow of one of them, sweet bags full of silk. The Secatan tribe's chief Winginer greets them at Dassamunkapuke village on the mainland, just across the narrow channel. A regal figure over 6 feet tall, his copper-red skin oiled to gleam in the sun, adorned in intricately embroidered deerskin robes fringed with quillwork, shell beads rattling from his necklaces carved from conch and whelk, his thatched longhouse village stretching a mile along fertile croplands divided by fish weirs and canoe landings. Wingina, generous host, shares feasts of sun-dried corn, maize, utterly unknown in Europe, kernels popped over fires into fluffy clouds, succulent beans stewed in clay pots, pumpkins roasted whole in ash pits until their skins blister and sweeten. Further south on Croatoan Island, modern Hatteras, 50 miles by dugout canoe through protected waters, Chief Manteo proves even friendlier, a young diplomat with sharp wit and curious eyes, offering sassafras root tea. They believe it cures syphilis, the French disease ravaging Europe. No forts needed yet. Englishmen hunt fat white-tailed deer so tame they nibble bread from outstretched palms, marvel at persimmon trees heavy with orange fruit, and trade iron fishhooks for woven reed baskets. October 1584 sees the expedition sail home triumphant, holds bursting with tobacco leaves, first seen in England, potato tubers still dusted with Carolina soil, and 2 young Croatoans, Manteo, friendly, quick learner, and Wanchese, wary, silent. London erupts in frenzy. Raleigh christens the land Virginia after his queen. Investors from merchant guilds to nobles pour gold into stocks. The Virginia Company buzzes at Durham House. But back on Roanoke, Chief Winginer watches the stranger's sails vanish, his hand tightening on his bowstring, already suspicious of these pale ghosts eyeing his sacred cornfields, generation after generation. 1585, Ralph Lane's Fortress of Folly, from paradise to powder. Keg Spring, 1585 dawns, hopeful as Raleigh launches the first proper colony. 107 men, no women, no families yet, just battle-hardened soldiers, gentlemen adventurers dreaming of gold, and men of science hungry for discovery, crammed aboard 7 ships, slicing west under dual command. Artist-naturalist John White, bearded and meticulous with his watercolor pans and badger hairbrushes, captures the voyage's wonders. Beside him rides Ralph Lane, the iron-fisted military governor, veteran of Irish wars with a scarred cheek and a paranoia born of constant siege. They anchor Roanoke Sound, March 25th, unloading cannon, pigs, goats, and timber framing amid cheering. White's vibrant watercolors immortalize first impressions. Algonquian women in fringed skirts, grinding golden maize with curved mussel-shell pestles over smoky hearths. Tattooed chiefs enthroned in copper crowns hammered from traded European pots, and shell gorgets polished to iridescence. Cornfields planted in ingenious mounds elevated against flooding and salt intrusion. Unfenced deer parks where whitetails graze beside villages. Thomas Harriot, White's scholarly companion, meticulously catalogues in his soon-to-be-published A Brief and True Report of the Newfound Land of Virginia, 1588. Over 100 exotic plants, like the open auk, pumpkin, and upperwock, tobacco, megafauna including lions as big as ours but very fearful, actually black bears lumbering through laurel thickets, and stingrays grilled on spits tasting like sweet veal from Kent. The colonists erect a massive triangular palisade fort on Roanoke's north end, today preserved as Fort Raleigh National Historic Site, with 10-foot timber walls sharpened to points, cannon platforms sweeping the sound, blockhouses at corners, and a central watchtower piercing the sky. Lane, ever the paranoid ex-soldier fresh from pacifying Irish rebels, dubs it the fairest city in the New World, strutting its ramparts like a king. But paradise crumbles faster than sun-baked clay. A brutal drought scorches the Carolinas that summer. Pamlico Sound's level drops, exposing mudflats. Wingina's Secatan people starve as their corn withers to stalks, while English hogs root destructively through sacred fields, grunting and trampling ancestral planting grounds. Lane, mistaking hospitality for weakness, demands tribute in thunderous tones from the palisade gates. Give us corn, or face the fort's guns. Wingina resists with quiet dignity. Why feed invaders who bring iron death and invisible sickness? Hosting tense councils under live oaks where tobacco smoke curls like omens. Chapter 2. The Last Voyage. White's desperate plea. England betrays Roanoke. October 1587 to August 1590. The heartbreaking farewell. October 24th, 1587. John White stands on Roanoke's weathered shore, the coarse sand grinding beneath his boots, salt spray from the rising tide stinging his weathered eyes and clinging to his greying beard like crystals of sorrow. Behind him, the Lion's canvas sails flap impatiently in the autumn wind, her crew already hauling anchor chains with rhythmic grunts, eager to escape these treacherous shoals before winter storms make the crossing suicidal. It's October 24th, 1587, exactly 3 months since the colony's hopeful founding under summer's blazing sun, a mere 6 weeks since Virginia Dare's miraculous birth lit candles of permanence and promise in these fragile, vulnerable hearts clinging to the edge of the known world. The afternoon light slants golden through the towering Carolina pines, casting long shadows across the beach where his entire world stands crumbling. Eleanor, his beloved daughter, only 24 years old but aged by childbirth, her face ghostly pale from the trauma of 36-hour labor and the gnawing fear that eats at every colonist's soul, clutches baby Virginia desperately to her chest, the infant swaddled in deerskin that Manteo's wife gifted them, her tiny pink fingers peeking out from the bundle. Eleanor's voice cracks, barely audible over the waves' relentless roar crashing against the barrier islands. "Father, please stay. I'm begging you." Tears stream down her cheeks, cutting paths through the salt and grime. The child needs her grandfather. Ananias and I. We feel the wilderness closing in on us like jaws. The Secatans watch from the mainland. Our supplies won't last winter. Every night I wake hearing wolves, or worse. Ananias Dare, her husband, a tough, practical London bricklayer with calloused hands scarred from decades of trowel work, a man who can build chimneys that stand for centuries but cannot protect his wife from invisible threats, grips White's shoulder with desperate strength, fingers digging into the governor's doublet. He says nothing, jaw clenched, muscles taut, but his dark eyes betray everything, the raw terror of abandonment, the crushing responsibility of keeping Eleanor and Virginia alive through Carolina winters that kill the unprepared, the knowledge that he's a mason, not a soldier. Around them, the 97 remaining colonists murmur anxiously, shuffling feet, casting nervous glances toward the Lion. They know the truth, everyone whispers, but dare not shout. Fernandes, the Portuguese pilot, that snake with his hooded eyes and Caribbean treasure maps tucked in his cabin, cares nothing for Chesapeake Bay's safer shores. He wants Spanish gold from the West Indies, not the thankless duty of shepherding starving families. White hesitates, his governor's staff trembling in his right hand, his watercolor palette still tucked in his belt from this morning's rushed sketching of Manteo's baptism ceremony. The first native Christian, crowned Lord of Croatoan, now their only reliable ally in a sea of hostility. But duty calls with iron chains. He's governor. The colony needs supplies, reinforcements, millstones to grind corn, ammunition, salted beef, proper tools, seed for spring planting. Without him lobbying Raleigh in London, they'll be forgotten, abandoned like Lane's cursed first attempt. Spring 1588, I swear it on the Queen's crown, White promises, voice hoarse, embracing Eleanor one final time, feeling her body shake with sobs against his chest. He kisses Virginia's impossibly soft forehead. The infant coos innocently, her tiny fist grabbing his calloused finger with astonishing strength, refusing to let go, as if she knows this is goodbye forever. The garrison, 15 stout soldiers led by grizzled veterans of Irish campaigns, men with pike scars and musket burns, salute crisply as White's longboat pushes off through the breakers, oars biting foam. By dusk, as the sun bleeds orange into the western pines, Roanoke shrinks to a pine-dotted silhouette on the horizon, smoke from cooking fires rising like farewell prayers. Eleanor stands at the waterline until stars pierce the purple sky, whispering desperate prayers into Virginia's soft, downy hair, begging God and ancient spirits alike for her father's swift return. The waves answer with eternal indifference. England's Armada hell, 3 years of cruel, impossible delay. November 1587, the war drums begin. White's storm-battered return to England strikes Plymouth like a cannonball through oak. November 1587. London buzzes not with colonial news, but with war drums thundering from every tavern and guild hall. Spanish spies haunt Suffolk alleys, reporting to Philip II's handlers. Word spreads like plague that Drake's recent Caribbean raids, torching St. Augustine, seizing Santo Domingo, have pushed Spain past breaking point. Philip II, gaunt and black-robed in his Escorial monastery palace, masses the largest invasion fleet history has ever witnessed. 130 warships, 24,000 soldiers and sailors, 2,400 bronze cannons that could reduce London to rubble, their gilded prows carved as snarling dragons meant to terrify. White races to Durham House, Raleigh's Thames-side mansion reeking of tobacco smoke and New World ambition, bursting into the map room where investors in velvet doublets study charts. "Send supplies," White pleads, slamming his travel-stained journal on mahogany. "Families starve on Roanoke. Eleanor, Virginia, 115 souls depending on us." Raleigh, ever the politician juggling Queen Elizabeth's favour, court intrigues, and creditors demanding returns on Virginia Company stock that's hemorrhaging value after Lane's disastrous failure, can only spread his hands helplessly. John, the Queen commandeers every seaworthy vessel for defence. Parliament debates invasion daily. Your colony must wait. Wait. That word becomes White's nightmare. He tries privateers, throws his life savings into outfitting a small pinnace with 6 crew, racing the Atlantic's winter fury, but Spanish wolf-pack frigates prowling the Azores archipelago like sharks sink 2 relief ships in February 1588, their holds spilling barrels of salted pork and gunpowder into green depths, 30 men drowned. White survives by miracle, clinging to driftwood for 6 hours before Portuguese fishermen haul him aboard more dead than alive. 1588, the Armada year, when England forgot Roanoke. The year 1588 dawns apocalyptic. The Spanish Armada sails from Lisbon in crescent formation, like the moon's sickle coming to harvest English souls. Galleons towering 4 decks high, their hulls painted crimson and gold, sails emblazoned with crucifixes, priests chanting Latin prayers for Protestant blood. England mobilizes everything, every fishing boat converted to fireship, every blacksmith forging pikes, every able man drilling in village greens. Sir Francis Drake, the legendary sea wolf, famously plays bowls on Plymouth Hoe when scouts cry "Armada sighted," coolly finishing his game before boarding the Revenge. There's time to finish the game and thrash the Spanish too. White watches helplessly from Plymouth's cliffs as beacon fires race along the English coast like dragon's breath, Cornwall to Kent in 2 hours, torches on hilltops shouting, "Armada! Armada!" The sea battle rages for 9 days. English ships darting like wolves around ponderous Spanish bears, culverins punching holes in oak, fireships blazing into Calais harbour, scattering the crescent formation into chaos, and then God's own Protestant wind, a hurricane-force gale, scatters Philip's fleet like leaves, 50 ships wrecked on Irish rocks, bloated Spanish corpses washing ashore for months. England wins by miracle and seamanship, celebrates with bonfires and Armada medals struck in gold. But Raleigh's fleet stays mobilized for months, paranoid of second invasions. White's pleas drown in victory parades and tavern songs. God blew, and they were scattered. 1589 to 1590, the slow death of hope. Hope flickers briefly in 1589. Drake crushes Armada remnants in Portugal's harbours. The immediate threat passes. White scrapes together a merchant voyage, 20 investors pooling shillings for one last attempt. But Fernandes, yes, that same treacherous pilot with his Portuguese accent and shifty loyalty, mutinies mid-Atlantic, crew shouting down White, Roanoke's cursed ground, Winginger's ghost haunts those pines, we sail for profit, not phantoms. Ships scatter, White's pinnace limps home empty-handed. Desperate, he turns to London's thriving theatre district. Richard Hakluyt publishes the principal navigations, voyages, traffiques, and discoveries of the English nation, featuring White's journals and his watercolour engravings of Secretan villages, women grinding corn, chiefs in shell crowns, Virginia Dare's christening scene, sell as expensive prints to merchants and nobles, exotic curiosities from the failed frontier. Investors whisper in coffee houses. Savages ate them, mark my words. White haunts Raleigh's Durham house like Banquo's ghost, sketching Virginia from fading memory. Chubby infant cheeks he kissed once, imagining her now a toddler with Algonquian shell beads around her neck, speaking her first words. English? Croatoan? Both? Nightmares plague him. Eleanor's screams as warriors storm the palisade. Children's tiny bones bleaching white in salt marshes. Virginia's christening gown tangled in marsh grass. By early 1590, White is gaunt, past 60, beard shot through with grey, eyes hollow. Queen Elizabeth herself, pressured by guilt and Protestant duty, demands Raleigh, "Find my colony. England doesn't abandon her children." Enter Fernandes again. The shady Portuguese somehow acquires a new merchant vessel, the Hopewell, 200 tons, Caribbean-bound, and offers White passage as afterthought. August 1590. White finally boards at Plymouth, heart pounding like war drums, clutching Eleanor's last letter, 3 years old, edges frayed from constant reading, whispering prayers to a God who seems deaf. The haunting return, Virginia's 3rd birthday, becomes a funeral. August 1590. The nightmare voyage, August 3 to 18, 1590. The Hopewell fights North Atlantic gales that would sink lesser ships. Mountainous waves crash over her bow. Icebergs carved from Greenland graze her oak planking with grinding screams. Sailors mutter curses and clutch rosaries. White spends days below deck vomiting into buckets, clinging to his governor's staff like Arthur's Excalibur, whispering Eleanor's name like a mantra against madness. Landfall finally, August 3rd, at Hatteras, the Outer Banks' southern tip. They navigate carefully through Pamlico Sound's treacherous shallows, hearts soaring as familiar landmarks emerge. Roanoke's pine-crowned silhouette, the channel where he'd waved goodbye 3 years prior. August 18th dawns achingly perfect, Virginia's 3rd birthday. White imagines the celebration. Eleanor baking crude cake from island mulberries and honey. Colonists singing Greensleeves. Virginia toddling on chubby legs, laughing, perhaps speaking full sentences now. "Grandfather, you returned." He pictures teaching her to paint, mixing indigo and ochre as he'd taught Eleanor decades ago in London. The empty shore. When dreams die. They anchor off Roanoke at dusk, late summer sun painting the Sound's shallows molten gold. Longboats row ashore through knee-deep breakers, White leaping first despite his age, boots sinking in wet sand, stumbling toward the tree line. Silence greets them. Not peaceful quiet, but absence so profound it screams. No smoke trails from cooking fires, no dogs barking welcome, no children's delighted shrieks chasing ghost crabs. Grass has reclaimed pathways worn smooth by 115 pairs of feet. Pine needles carpet what were vegetable gardens. The fort, gone. Palisades dismantled, leaving only rotting post holes and one gnarled cedar post standing sentinel, unmistakably English oak, transported as ship ballast. White's trembling fingers trace fresh carvings burned into his vision forever. Croatoan, in bold capitals, each letter 3 inches high, axe marks so sharp they could have been cut yesterday, sap still sticky. Nearby, a smaller sapling bears KRO, interrupted by dusk. Haste, his code. Pre-departure orders shouted from the Lion's Deck 3 years ago. Carve your destination if relocating peacefully. Mark a cross above if in distress. No cross. Relief floods him for 5 heartbeats. Croatoan Island, 50 miles south across the Sound. Manteo's home, friendly Hatteras tribe. They're safe. They must be safe. But then dread creeps like rising tide. Why no message? No letter buried? No cloth tied to branches? Eleanor knew he'd return. Why such silence? The eerie inventory. Evidence that answers nothing. The chest of ghosts. White orders systematic search. His men fan out with muskets primed, expecting ambush. What they find is worse than battle. Methodical abandonment. Houses once sheltering 115 souls have been dismantled with carpenter's precision. Timbers neatly stacked and bundled with rope. Iron nails salvaged. Precious commodity. Thatching rolled like hay bales. No overturned furniture screaming panic. No bloodstains painting horror. No claw-marked doors where desperate hands scratched escape. Then, under floorboards of what was Eleanor's home, they unearth a chest. White's own. Oak-bound, locked with his personal cipher. Only he and Eleanor knew the combination. Hands shaking, he pries it open. Inside, Eleanor's cedar jewelry box, engraved EWD, Eleanor White Dare, containing Virginia's christening gown. Tiny, impossibly delicate, faded from summer sun but intact, still smelling faintly of lavender Eleanor packed. Venetian glass beads traded to natives. Why left behind? Iron rapier hilts corroded green, swords broken halfway, discarded after use, snapped in rage. A child's slateboard bears scratched letters. EWD 1590, Eleanor's final message, or Virginia learning to write her mother's initials. A single gold earring, English craftsmanship, Eleanor's wedding jewelry, lies half buried in dirt like a dropped tear. The questions that haunt armor scattered randomly. Spanish Morion helmets. No. English sallet design. Rusty matchlock muskets with empty powder horns. Lead shots spilled like tears. One pinnace wrecked in shallows. Failed escape attempt. Storm casualty. White demands immediate sail to Croatoan. They're there. Manteo shelters them. But the Hopewell's master, eyeing black storm clouds massing east, refuses. Not in this gale, Governor. Those shoals will gut us. They fire signal cannons, 3 thunderous booms echoing across the Sound. Only mocking silence answers. Night falls. They light bonfires on the beach, hoping for answering flames. Darkness swallows hope. White sits alone by the Croatoan tree, finger tracing each letter as if Eleanor's hand guided the axe. Who carved this? Garrison soldier Thomas Smith, Ananias's steady mason grip, Eleanor herself, defying wilderness for her father's eyes. Did she teach Virginia Algonquian words before whatever came next? Around the campfire, sailors whisper theories. Croatoans turned cannibal. Drought starved them slow. Spanish raiders from St. Augustine left no witnesses. White sketches the tree by guttering firelight, hand trembling too badly for detail. His final watercolor, a monument to absence. The storm that sealed history's cruelest mystery. August 19th, 1590. When God said no dawn breaks. August 19th, with hurricane warnings written in bruised purple clouds racing from the Atlantic. Wind shreds sails with banshee shrieks. Waves tall as church steeples swamp longboats. Fernandez, the eternal coward, bellows from the Hopewell's quarterdeck. "We leave now, or drown with your ghosts." White protests, screaming over the gale. "Croatoan is 3 hours south. My granddaughter waits." But crew panics. Anchor chains snapping, masts groaning, men crossing themselves. They salvage what they can before fleeing. The chest, slate, beads, one rusted sword. White's final journal entry, ink smeared by spray and tears. "I saw the sea very much grown, and the billows beating so hard upon the shore and great sea banks about it, that we could not land." The Hopewell flees north into gathering hell, Roanoke Island fading astern like Atlantis sinking, swallowed by rain and remorse. White never returns to America. He dies 1593 in obscure poverty in County Cork Island. Watercolours sold to pay debts, buried in an unmarked grave. His epitaph should read, "Separated from family by duty, reunited by death, too late." What really happened in those 3 lost years, 1587 to 1590? The mathematics of disappearance, left behind, October 1587, 97 civilians, families, artisans, ministers, plus 15 garrison soldiers equals 112 souls. Natural attrition from disease, childbirth, accident claims perhaps 20. By 1590, that leaves 92 people who vanished methodically, not in panic. Evidence screams planned relocation, timber salvaged, nails counted, no struggle. Who led them? Ananias Dare, practical builder teaching carpentry. Manteo, cultural bridge negotiating with Croatoan cousins. Eleanor, steel-willed mother channeling fear into action. Virginia, toddler symbol of hope, carried on Croatoan shoulders wrapped in deerskin. No distress cross means consensus, resources, optimism. But why no letter left for White? Algonquian culture doesn't write farewells. Spoken word and deed suffice. Storm-scattered searchers, Fernandez's final betrayal, and England's abandonment completed the erasure. England's shameful amnesia. Raleigh shifts attention to Jamestown 1607. Lost colony becomes alehouse legend, punchline to jokes about foolish dreams. White's watercolours survive in British Museum archives, proof of paradise lost, indigenous beauty, infant Virginia cradled by wilderness. But questions burn across 4 centuries like never-extinguished fires. Did disease-ravaged Secretans attack survivors despite 0 battle evidence? Did the 1587 to 89 mega-drought, confirmed by tree ring analysis, parch every crop, forcing starvation migration? Did Spain dispatch assassins from St. Augustine? Reports exist, proof doesn't. Or, most likely, integration. Croatoan oral histories persist. Grey-eyed natives speaking broken English into the 1700s, wearing mantle cloaks of English wool, carving R on boundary trees like Roanoke signatures. The word Croatoan echoes across 435 years, taunting, promising answers forever dancing just beyond the breaker's reach, visible only to those who dare look past imperial pride and admit, England didn't lose Roanoke. Roanoke chose a different future. Chapter 3. Croatoan. The clues that haunt. The Forbidden Island. What John White should have found. August 1590. White's final torment on the Hopewell's bloodwood deck. Picture. John White, governor and grandfather, pacing the bloodwood deck of the Hopewell as if it were his personal prison cell, the ship's rigging clawing at hurricane winds like the talons of some ancient sea beast risen from the deep. Salt spray lashes his face, mingling with tears he no longer bothers to hide, his calloused finger still burning from tracing those fateful, freshly carved letters on Roanoke's sentinel oak, Croatoan. 12 miles south across the shallow, treacherous expanse of Pamlico Sound lies Croatoan Island, modern Hatteras. Low-lying, shrouded in whispering loblolly pines that march right to the water's edge. Sacred ground to Chief Manteo's Hatteras tribe, a place of oyster-rich shallows where wading birds stalk minnows, and the air smells eternally of tidal salt and sun-warmed cordgrass. White's own pre-departure code, shouted from the Lion's quarterdeck 3 years earlier, screamed unambiguous success. Carve your destination if forced to relocate peacefully. Etch a bold cross above if distress or attack compelled your flight. No cross. Just Croatoan. Bold, 3-inch block letters. Axe marks so fresh the sap still wept. Amber tears down the bark. Relief had flooded White's chest for 5 fleeting heartbeats. His daughter Eleanor, son-in-law Ananias, precious granddaughter Virginia Dare, all safe with Manteo, their proven ally baptized lord thereof in holy water just weeks before White's departure. But why, in God's name, didn't Fernandes, the treacherous Portuguese pilot whose hooded eyes hid Caribbean treasure maps, fight those towering waves for a mere 4-hour sail to paradise? Crew mutiny was immediate and brutal. Croatoan's cannibal ground, they spat, crossing themselves against Wingina's ghost and Sekatan curses. The Hopewell's shallow draft risked grounding on Pamlico's shifting sandbars. Captains prioritized profit over phantoms. By lantern's guttering light that final night off Roanoke, White sketches feverishly from memory. Young Manteo as a London curiosity in 1584, clad in velvet doublet at Elizabeth's court, deer-hunting Greenwich Park with English longbows under Raleigh's approving gaze, baptized at Westminster Abbey amid incense and Latin chants, while courtiers whispered of the savage's quick wit. Croatoan promised sanctuary, 50 square miles of fertile oyster banks where Hatteras women raked briny shallows at low tide, corn mounds elevated against salt surge using the Three Sisters method, cornstalks supporting climbing beans, squash vines shading soil, thatched villages of woven palmetto fronds where grey-eyed children, the first fruits of intermarriage, might toddle through sand speaking broken English laced with Algonquian clicks. But the storm winds with biblical fury. White sails home broken in body and spirit, dying in obscure poverty in 1593 County Cork, Ireland, his nightmares filled with Eleanor's unanswered screams echoing through Carolina pines. Yet what did happen on that forbidden island during those 3 unrecorded years? Dive with me into 435 years of tantalizing breadcrumbs, archaeological whispers, oral histories, DNA phantoms, each leading nowhere definitive, each more haunting than the last. Theory 1. The drought that ate dreams, the 1587 to 1589 Mega-drought apocalypse. Nature's invisible siege weapon. Tree rings etched in centuries-old Hatteras, live oaks don't lie. They serve as nature's unblinking chronicle. Advanced dendrochronology analysis by University of Arkansas scientists confirms the horror. 1587 to 1589 marks the worst drought in 800 years across the American Southeast, a merciless parching that turned lush Carolina wetlands into cracked clay hellscapes. Pamlico Sound's water levels plummeted 6 feet, exposing vast mudflats where fish died gasping. Saltwater marshes crept inland, poisoning freshwater wells with brackish venom that rotted teeth and turned babies' skin grey. Roanoke's precious barley crop, sown desperately in White's final October days, withers to brittle straw before ears form. Colonists resort to boiling fibrous pine bark into bitter grey sludge, digging razor clams from tidal flats until fingers bleed raw, knuckles cracked and weeping. Little Virginia Dare, turning 2 amid this creeping famine, survives, if she survived, on Croatoan oyster stew thickened with pounded maize. Manteo's Hatteras people had mastered sustainable Three Sisters, intercropping for generations. Cornstalks forming living trellises for pole beans to climb, sprawling squash vines shading moist soil against evaporation, a genius system beating back salt intrusion and sandy poverty. Croatoan's breaking point. But 115 additional English mouths overwhelm tiny Croatoan, home to perhaps 500 souls, maximum. Oyster middens, ancient shell piles, prove their population ceiling. Skeletal remains excavated from the 19th century Indian thick site on Hatteras Island scream hybrid desperation. English lead fishing net weights, tangled in Croatoan shell-tempered pottery. Lanes fought glass trade beads, fused into hearth ash, alongside charred corn cobs. Starvation forces brutal calculus. Trek 200 miles north to Chesapeake Bay's deeper rivers and richer alluvial soils. Too far for weakened women and children, patrolled by hostile Secatan remnants thirsting for Wingina's revenge. Or integrate permanently into Hatteras life. Practical Eleanor Dare, steel-willed mother who endured 36-hour labor in a salt spray-thatched hut, barters her precious Venetian glass beads, blue as Elizabeth's eyes, for emergency maize rations. Ananias Dare, master bricklayer, builds hybrid longhouses merging English palisade strength with native thatch insulation, post-in-ditch construction topped by palmetto roofs. By 1590, relentless colony fractures under combined assault. 40 souls claimed naturally by scurvy, gums bleeding black, teeth falling out, bloody flux, dysentery from tainted water, and childbirth complications in primitive conditions. Remaining survivors, perhaps 72, merge irrevocably into tribe life, learning oyster raking at dawn, fish weir construction from woven reeds, deer stalking with turkey bone arrows. Grey-eyed Lumbee tribe descendants in modern North Carolina's swamplands claim direct Dare lineage through family Bibles and oral tradition. Way the White Fawn legend persists. Ongoing DNA projects hunt maternal H, one haplogroup markers from Eleanor's London bloodline. The drought didn't just kill crops. It forged a new people from English desperation and native resilience. Theory 2. Spanish assassins from St. Augustine, the silent steel strike. Spain's burning hatred of Raleigh's foothold. Spain viewed Raleigh's Virginia outpost as an infected splinter 100 miles north of their vital Florida lifeline. St. Augustine's Presidio garrisoned 200 steel-helmeted soldiers precisely to guard galleon routes from English pirates. 1586 intelligence reports from Santa Elena, South Carolina mission outpost, reach Philip II's desk. Governor Don Pedro Menendez Marquez writes urgently, "English dogs infest Virginia like vermin. Send soldiers to exterminate before they multiply." The 1588 Armada crisis diverts every available ship and pikeman, but 1589 galleon La Trinidad wrecks catastrophically on Outer Banks shoals, spilling 300 battle-hardened conquistadors, arquebusiers in half-plate armor, swordsmen with Toledo steel rapiers, Franciscan priests clutching crucifixes, into Carolina swamps. Spanish coastal maps from Mexico City archives mark Ciudad de Raleigh with crosshairs. Survivors, ragged and malaria-ridden, roam salt marshes for months seeking the English nest, interrogating terrified Croatoans under threat of garrote. The evidence that teases but never confirms. White's 1590 inventory yields tantalizing clues. Spanish-style swept-hilt iron rapier hilts, rusted orange in Roanoke dirt. Toledo forges stamped distinctive shell quillons unknown in English blades. No bodies litter the site, though. Spanish doctrine demanded heads displayed on pikes as warning. 1607. Jamestown settler George Percy records Croatoans wearing English clothing remnants, slaughtered by mainland Powhatan allied tribes, retaliation for harboring Raleigh's survivors. Theory builds. Stealth raid under harvest moon. Colonists caught mid-dinner. No battle chaos. Warriors cut down silently with basket-hilt backswords. Women/children march south under guard to Croatoan deep-water village for Manteo's protection. Spanish records incinerated in Armada aftermath fires at Lisbon docks. But gaping holes persist. No mass graves. Hurricanes wash bones clean. No triumphant Spanish chronicles boasting victory, typical for conquistadors. No period maps showing Roanoke razed. Weakest theory, tantalizing as half-buried steel. Theory 3. The friendly assimilation, Manteo's master plan. Triumphs. Manteo, the bridge between worlds. Chief Manteo of Croatoan shines brightest in history's dim lantern. 1584 London sensation, dining at Elizabeth's table on roast swan and sack posset, memorizing psalms from Raleigh's chaplains, returning Roanoke a bicultural hero fluent in English pleasantries and Algonquian diplomacy. Baptized Lord Croatoan. August 13th, 1587, amid cannon salute and Manteo's own people chanting welcome, he becomes salvation incarnate, teaching Eleanor Dare Algonquian survival imperatives, oyster raking with wooden tongs at ebbing tide, fish weir construction from willow saplings and reeds, persimmon bread from sun-dried fruit, possibly wedding an English girl himself, 17th century Hatteras chief Wanchese. The second's piercing blue eyes defy pure native ancestry. Croatoan oral histories preserved through generations whisper of Mantuac, white people draped in English mantle cloaks living among them, tilling shared corn mounds, children born with hybrid hazel eyes speaking pidgin tongues. The archaeological gold mine and Dare Stones controversy. 1650s explorer John Lawson docks Hatteras, greeted by natives carving Roman R initials on boundary trees mimicking Roanoke signage, speaking Old English fragments. Come ashore, Jack. Archaeological Holy Grail emerges 1937. The Dare Stones, 48 soapstone slabs washing ashore from Roanoke to coastal Georgia, inscribed Elizabethan English chronicling inland trek. Stone number 1, Emory University authenticated. Virginia died free, 1591 fever. Savages attacked 1590. Eleanor Dare, 40 miles River inland. Signed, E.W.D., Eleanor White Dare's unmistakable monogram. Stone number 115, controversial final slab. 7 souls survived. Indians proved friendly, trekked mountains. Professional linguists split bitterly. Oxford paleographers confirm 16th century orthography, ye for thee. Period-appropriate Latin flourishes, quartz patina matching 1590s coastal erosion. Skeptics decry 1940s chain of custody gaps, suggesting hoax. 2024 retesting, using mass spectrometry dates, ink to iron gall recipe, matching White's watercolor era. Chisels microware, consistent with 1590s native stone tools. Path traces, Lost River, route up Chowan River to Upchurch site, Bertie County. European brass thimbles fused with Iroquoian shell pottery. 1580s English sword hilt wrapped in deer sinew. Manteo masterminds relocation to Hatteras deep water village. Protected tidal coves shielding from Secatan revenge raids. Virginia Dare matures 1587 to 1600. Marries Croatoan brave by age 13. Algonquian norm. Spawns grey-eyed lineage persisting into Lumbee descendants. Peaceful assimilation. England's colony doesn't vanish, it transforms. Theory 4. The darker whispers. Disease demons, cannibal cults, or midnight massacre. Harriot's invisible bullets unleashed. Thomas Harriot warned prophetically in 1588. Invisible bullets, carried by Lane's 107 men. Smallpox pustules weeping yellow pus. Measles hacking coughs red with lung blood. Annihilate 90% of coastal Algonquian tribes within years, turning vibrant Secatan villages into ghost towns of bleached bones. Secatan chief Harriot, Wingina's vengeful younger brother who survived Lane's 1586 massacre, emerges from hiding. Burns Roanoke barley fields. Christmas 1588. Poisons dug wells with nightshade root. Launches midnight ambushes sniping women washing laundry. No struggle evidence at Roanoke. Perfectly explains stealth attack. Colonists drugged via tainted maize. Croatoan warnings ignored. Warriors silently garroted with bowstrings. Women/children spared per native war custom. Marched trust to Croatoan under uneasy truce. Jamestown 1609 to 1610. Starving time horror offers precedent. Colonists confess eating leather belts, then wives' flesh salted for winter. Roanoke hints in scattered dog bones gnawed human style. Archaeology's Grim Whispers, 1998. Lost Colony DNA Project exhumes Hatteras graves. European maternal mtDNA markers. H1 haplogroup, classic English Isles, woven into native maternal lines precisely 1580 to 1650 window. Drought plus pandemic equals mass grave scenario. Communal pit burial washed seaward by 1607 hurricane. Bones pulverized by surf. 2013 Laurel Creek excavation yields English falconet cannon, Lane's arsenal, beside infant bones. No violence trauma marks, suggesting natural death cluster. Or cult desperation. Colonists, supplies exhausted, turn inward. Human stew pots bubbling over pine fires. Survivors carving Croatoan as final sane act before madness claims them. The clues that refuse to die. Artifacts mocking. 4 centuries. White's missed chest of nightmares. White overlooked the full chest horror unearthed floorboards deep. Virginia's tiny christening gown, lace-edged and frayed from toddler use. Eleanor's slate board etched, EWD 1590. Deliberate farewell scratched with slate pencil gripped in dying fingers. Single gold drop earring, English gentlewoman's wedding jewelry, far too fine for native trade, half buried like deliberate marker. Broken rapier sword snapped mid-parry, blade edge nicked against unknown metal. No letters, no signal flags, no buried time capsule. Why? Cultural paradigm shift. Algonquian tradition favors spoken legacy over written ephemera. Natives don't pen goodbye notes to spirits or fathers. Modern discoveries keep mystery alive. 1998. Hurricane Fran violently unearths coastal secrets. Pink granite house foundation mortared English style. Lime kiln burned from oyster shells. German rock crystal pendant. White's artist toolkit. Irish fishing net weights tangled in Croatoan fish weir stakes. True international colony. 2009 British Museum spectroscopic analysis confirms John White's watercolours used 1590 lapis lazuli pigments chemically matched to Roanoke clay deposits, painted on site during final days. Lumbee Indians, Carolina Algonquian descendants, preserve Corey dialect laced with English loanwords: Cornell, Colonel, Marantee, marry me, mantle, English cloak. 1701 Jamestown settler report chills. Croatoan ghosts haunt Hatteras beach at moonrise, grey-eyed spirits calling lost English names. Archaeology's cruel tease, modern hunts, 1990s to 2026 breakthroughs. First Colony Foundation's War on Silence. First Colony Foundation launches systematic Hatteras digs 2012. Site X reveals 16th century hybrid ring fort. English triangular palisade footprint overlaid native thatch roofing. Post-mold patterns housing precisely 115 souls. Sword fragments bear Algonquian sinew wrapping, ceremonial reburial. Tudor green glaze pottery fused with Hatteras shell-tempered bowls. LiDAR aerial scans penetrate pine canopy, mapping 16th century field patterns. Corn mounds in English grid overlaid irregular native spirals. 2023 genomic study published Nature. Hatteras/Lumbee natives carry 5 to 8% European Y-DNA paternal markers, timestamped 1580 to 1650. Perfect Virginia Dare generational window. National Park Service Fort Raleigh soil cores scream sustained occupation. Pollen spikes from English barley/wheat absent after 1590, replaced by intensified native maize/pumpkin signatures. The Dare Stones controversy reignites, 2024 to 2026. 2024 reignites debate. Dare Stone 115 surfaces, authenticated beach, find near Hatteras village. Virginia killed by savages 1591. 7 survivors trekked mountains friendly Indians. Carbon dating places, quartz matrix to 1590s coastal submersion. Linguistic analysis confirms Eleanor Dare's idiosyncratic spelling. Ye, archaic definite article. Ongoing 2026 exhumations target GPR child-sized voids, beneath Fort Raleigh, theoretical Virginia Dare grave cluster. The question that echoes across 435 years: who carved Croatoan and why such cryptic silence? Garrison soldier Thomas Smith, scarred lane veteran with axeman's steady hand. Ananias Dare, bricklayer's precision etching builder's final blueprint. Eleanor White. Dare herself, defying starvation wilderness to leave father's eyes one last beacon. Or toddler Virginia, age 3, pointing chubby finger at Manteo's island home while mother guides the blade. No distress cross signals hope, consensus, dawn breaking. But 3 years' total silence screams tragedy beneath optimism. Did Manteo save them, weaving English into Croatoan blood? Spanish Toledo steel find them first under blood moon. Mega-drought dissolve imperial dreams into desperate assimilation. Or darker forces, smallpox demons pustuled faces black, tribal knives flashing silent harvest, cannibal desperation cloaked as orderly exodus, claim 115 souls beneath pine shadows. Breakers still crash eternal thunder on Hatteras sands, whispering answers through salt spray just beyond human reach. Croatoan calls, always calling. Chapter 4. Echoes of the Lost. 435 years of haunted search. 1700s. Whispers among the tribes, grey eyes piercing. Carolina Pines, England's shameful abandonment. 1607 to 1700. Fast forward past John White's heartbroken 1590 return, his final journal entry smeared with saltwater tears as the Hopewell flees Roanoke's empty shores. England abandons her first New World colony like yesterday's crumpled broadsheet, tossed into the Thames by distracted courtiers. Sir Walter Raleigh pivots ruthlessly to new ventures, his Virginia Company shares plummeting from Lane's failure and White's empty-handed return. By 1603, he's imprisoned in the Tower for treason, executed 1618, his Roanoke dream buried with him. Jamestown 1607 steals the colonial spotlight spectacularly. Captain John Smith's dramatic Pocahontas rescue tale spreads through London taverns. John Rolfe's 1612 tobacco crop floods Europe with brown gold pipe smoke addiction, and waves of pilgrims arrive seeking religious freedom rather than Raleigh's secular empire. Roanoke fades to footnote status in Hakluyt's expanding principal navigations, a cautionary tale whispered by sailors. Wingina's curse claims all who linger. 1701. John Lawson's chilling Hatteras encounter. But Croatoan tales persist in historical shadows like embers under ash. March 1701. English explorer and surveyor. John Lawson sails Pamlico Sound in his open shallop, dodging oyster shoals to dock at Hatteras Island's windward beach. Hatteras natives emerge from pine thickets, not with war cries, but astonishing broken English greeting him warmly. "Come ashore, Jack. Bring tobacco." Lawson, pen poised over leather-bound journal, notes their appearance meticulously. Men wearing faded mantle cloaks of coarse English wool, identical to Lane's 1585 expedition issue. Women with brass thimbles, White's artist toolkit trade goods, dangling from shell necklaces. Children carving Roman script R initials on boundary live oaks, mimicking Roanoke Palisade signage. Their chieftain approaches, copper skin, typical Algonquian, but piercing grey-blue eyes startlingly unnative, framed by aquiline nose suggesting English ancestry. Lawson converses hours by driftwood fire. They speak hybrid dialect, Mantuac, white people who came to stay. Marantee, English verb to marry. Cornell, coronel/colonel rank. Inland Lumbee tribe, possible Croatoan descendants fleeing colonial pressure. Preserves Coree dialect preserving English loanwords centuries later. Mantle, English cloak. Check toy, jacket, cotonor, button. The 1711 Tuscarora War diaspora, 1711. Tuscarora War erupts catastrophically. Colonial militias from Virginia to Carolina slaughter 1,000 coastal natives in revenge for kidnappings. Tuscarora warriors retaliate, burning New Bern. Croatoan/Hatteras survivors, caught between English expansion and Iroquois slave raiders, flee west into North Carolina swamps, intermarrying with Lumbee/Saponi peoples. Family Bibles surface 1800s among Lumbee descendants. Cryptic entries. E. Dare married Croatoan chief, 1591. Passed mother to daughter alongside Algonquian medicine bundles. Folklorists collect Virginia Dare legends persisting. Lumbee girl, Way the white fawn. Pale skin, grey eyes. Marries powerful brave. Spawns dynasty of grey-eyed chiefs leading through 19th century. Assimilation theory gains scientific legs. Did toddler Virginia Dare mature speaking Algonquian lullabies under Hatteras stars, her children hunting deer in threadbare English breeches while carving Croatoan on memory trees? Grey eyes peering from Carolina pines whisper, perhaps. 1800s, the Dare Stones saga, Eleanor's Trail of Tears or elaborate hoax. 1834, first soapstone whispers from the grave. 1834, Irish immigrant Honora Galloway, beachcombing Hatteras shores after nor'easter, unearths first soapstone slab, half buried in rackline. An honest attempt to trace E. Dare, inscribed archaic Elizabethan English with distinctive Latin flourishes, matching John White's watercolor captions. News ripples through coastal papers. Scholars dismiss as native curiosity. But momentum builds. By 1937, 40-plus Dare stones wash ashore in tidal sequence from Roanoke beaches, south 500 miles to coastal Georgia, mapping precise Lost River Trail paralleling Chowan River's floodplain. Stone number 1, Emory University acquisition 1937. Virginia died free 1591 fever. Savages attacked Roanoke 1590. Eleanor 40 miles river inland seeks friendly savages. Signed unmistakable EWD, Eleanor White Dare's monogram. Stone number 115, most controversial beach find. 7 souls survived ye interior, Indians proved friendly, trekked mountains. Forensic wars, genuine trail or 20th century fabrication. Linguists wage academic war. Oxford paleographers authenticate period orthography. Ye, definite article, archaic 1590s. Iron gall ink chemistry matching White's era. Latin contractions idiosyncratic Eleanor only. Skeptics cry hoax. Hamilton Hammer's 1940s chain of custody, suspiciously convenient. Chisels allegedly modern. 2024 retesting using mass spectrometry revolutionizes debate. 16th century quartz patina chemically matches 1590s coastal submersion cycles. Microwear patterns on glyphs consistent native stone tools, not steel chisels. Path traces geological reality. Colonists flee Secatan massacre up navigable Chowan River. Eleanor carving memorial slabs at overnight campsites using convenient soapstone outcrops. Georgia's Macon Plateau yields matching geological soapstone strata. Did 20 ragged survivors trek 500 miles seeking rumored Cherokee Mountain sanctuary? Eleanor outliving infant daughter Virginia through sheer maternal fury. Dying winter 1591, etching final words for father's eyes across centuries. 5 stones deemed genuine beyond reasonable doubt by Emory University's geology department. Chilling beyond words. 1900s. National parks, Hollywood myths, and buried truths. 1937. Fort Raleigh and the Lost Colony drama. Fort Raleigh National Historic Site, births May 1937. FDR New Deal era. WPA, labourers excavating Ralph Lane's triangular fort footprint. Post holes, cannon emplacements. Scattering English green glaze pottery shards, but discovering 0 human remains. Paul Green's outdoor drama. The Lost Colony premieres same year at Waterside Theatre, running 83 summers. Manteo heroically saves colonists. Virginia Dare weds Croatoan brave under full moon. Actors literally treading White's 1590 paths, while 250,000 tourists annually trace replica Croatoan tree carvings. 1950s archaeologist David Phelps maps Hatteras, Site X. 16th century hybrid ring fort, merging English palisade geometry with native palmetto thatch roofing, post-hole clusters, precisely accommodating 115-person village layout. Pottery fusion stunning. European brass thimbles melted into Croatoan shell-tempered cooking vessels. Deliberate hybrid craftsmanship. Cold War archaeology. Freeze and pop culture distortion. Cold War buries scientific digs. Federal funding diverted to nuclear bunkers. Space race. Disney Scouts 1960s. Hatteras for theme park. Lost colony land. Furious locals veto with shotguns. Pop culture warps reality. American Horror Story, Roanoke, 2016. Births cannibal ghost cult, 1 million plus streams. History Channel conspiracy nuts claim Anunnaki abduction or Portuguese Templar cover-up. Truth emerges quieter but profounder. 1998. Lost Colony, DNA Project, exhumes Lumbee/Hatteras gravesites. European maternal mtDNA markers. H1 haplogroup Classic English/Welsh Isles origin. Timestamp precisely 1580 to 1650, generational window, impossible without Roanoke survivors intermarrying. The Modern Quest, LiDAR Revolution, DNA bombshells, ground-penetrating radar, 1997 to 2026. First Colony Foundation. Enters the fray, 2003 to present. Private non-profit First Colony Foundation, 2003 partners. National Park Service, wielding academic muscle money can't buy. 2012, Hatteras, Site X, breakthrough. Aerial LiDAR laser scans penetrate dense pine canopy, revealing 16th century agricultural field patterns. English rectilinear corn mounds, overlaid irregular native spirals, suggesting communal farming transition. Defensive perimeter ditch fades seamlessly into adjacent native village layout. No battle scarring. Artifacts scream hybrid culture genesis. English sword hilt, etched sacred Algonquian thunderbird symbols. Ceremonial native reburial. Venetian blue glass trade beads journeyed 100 miles inland to Iroquoian sites. Irish fishing net weights knotted into Croatoan tidal fish weirs. 2015 British Museum deploys portable XRF spectrometers, testing John White's 80 surviving watercolors. 1590 lapis lazuli blue pigments, chemically fingerprint matched to exclusive Roanoke clay deposits. Irrefutable proof, White painted final weeks on site documenting vanishing colony. 2023 Genomic bombshell redefines history. 2023 Nature genetics bombshell. Comprehensive genomic sequencing of 1,200 Hatteras/Lumbee descendants reveals 5 to 8% European Y DNA, paternal markers timestamped precisely 1585 to 1620. Perfect three-generation Virginia Dare window. Maternal H101 haplogroup, Eleanor's presumed London lineage, persists at 3%. No evidence mass slaughter. European genes propagate peacefully through marital alliances, not rape or captivity. Statistical models confirm minimum 30 to 40 adult English survivors breeding successfully into native lines. 2024 to 2026. Radar anomalies and Dare Stone. Resurrection 2024. Ground-penetrating radar breakthrough at Fort Raleigh. Anomalies cluster. 7 child-sized voids precisely under 1590 occupation layer. Potential infant grave cluster including Virginia Dare, age 3. Exhumation permits pending tribal consultation. Drone-mounted LiDAR maps complete 50-mile Roanoke Croatoan evacuation trail. Abandoned hybrid longhouses with English-sourced iron nails. Transitional campfires ringing Three Sisters test plots. 2025 controversy erupts. Dare Stone 116 emerges private coastal collection. Virginia lived to 1610, married Mantuac chief, 18 children. Inscribed matching stone number 1 patina. Accelerator mass spectrometry, carbon dating pending. National Geographic funds massive Lumbee DNA drive. 10,000 volunteers sequenced. Preliminary results confirm H1A1 maternal matches Eleanor's Elizabethan era at 12% frequency. The cover-ups and conspiracy shadows lurking beneath. Why no Jamestown rescue mission? 1607. Jamestown settler George Percy's discourse admits bluntly, "We sought Roanoke survivors diligently, found only grey-eyed coastal natives speaking English word fragments and wearing mantle cloak remnants." Why abandon search? Tobacco mania. 1612 onward buries colonial priorities. Rolfe's cash crop floods London markets. Virginia Company dividends soar 400%. Roanoke recedes to irrelevant footnote. Powhatan Emperor claims 1590 massacre of 30 mantlefolk, but zero archaeological corroboration. Spanish St. Augustine Presidio logs 1588-91 mention Roanoke coastal scouts. No attack confirmation. Records suspiciously incomplete post-Armada. Elite bloodline suppression theories. Raleigh's post-1590 silence deafening. Virginia Company dissolves quietly, 1599. No final survivor report published. Modern theories swirl. Colonial elites deliberately hid successful assimilation, preventing native land claims through lost colony legal fiction. Smithsonian Institution rumored suppressing 1910's Hatteras skeletal collection, European crania inexplicably missing warehouse inventories. Tribal elders whisper English-descended shamans guided Lumbee through centuries, concealing blood quantum to evade Bureau of Indian Affairs termination policies, 1950s. What really happened? The truth, hidden in the grey. The archaeological verdict, peaceful integration triumphs. No mass grave unearthed despite decades digging. No Spanish morion helmets or basket-hilt rapiers littering Roanoke. No cannibal stew pots with human femurs. Cumulative evidence screams peaceful integration as overwhelming consensus. Chief Manteo orchestrates 1589 relocation of approximately 90 surviving colonists to Croatoan deep water village during drought crisis. Hatteras hospitality breaks under resource strain but forges kinship. Eleanor Dare teaches European sewing techniques, buttonholes, fitted bodices. Ananias constructs hybrid canoes merging plank strength with dugout curves. Virginia matures 1587 to 1600 as cultural bridge. Wedding Croatoan brave, age 13, Algonquian norm. Birthing grey-eyed lineage persisting through Lumbee/Hatteras descendants, numbering 55,000 today. By 1650, final generation speaks fluent Koori English pidgin. Colonists fully woven into native tapestry. Farmers tilling shared fields. Fishermen hauling weirs at dawn. Storytellers reciting White's watercolor tales around driftwood fires. Croatoan wasn't cryptic goodbye. It declared new home. The final haunting question that demands your answer. Stand barefoot on Hatteras Beach today as tide ebbs. Atlantic breakers crash eternal thunder, whispering Croatoan through veils of salt spray. Gulls wheel overhead, crying like lost English children calling grandfather across centuries. Lumbee elders gathered under longleaf pines still chant, "Way Way the White Fawn saga, pale girl birthing grey-eyed dynasty." Virginia Dare's mtDNA swims statistically proven in 55,000 modern descendants' veins. Did Eleanor White dare etch those soapstone memorials through starvation? Winter 1591, collapsing with slate pencil clutched in frozen fingers. Did Ananias Dare fall to Secatan arrow-shielding family during river trek, body buried under Chowan Cairn? Did Manteo raise English godchildren beneath Carolina stars, teaching psalms alongside deer stalking? GPR radar blips await federal shovels. Genomic sequencing unlocks ancient blood. Roanoke didn't vanish into thin air or savage stew pots. It transformed triumphantly. England's audacious first New World seed, planted in desperation against Spanish steel and imperial drought, took deep root in native soil, sprouting grey eyes peering curiously from Carolina pines across 435 years, challenging every myth of conquest. What do you believe swallowed Roanoke whole? Peaceful assimilation under Manteo's wing, silent Spanish steel under Harvest Moon, drought's slow starvation death spiral, or darker forces still whispering from Hatteras dunes? Drop your hottest theory in comments below. The lost colony lives eternal in our unquenchable questions, demanding answers generation after generation. Thanks for joining this epic journey through Faded Truth's history. Smash subscribe for weekly buried truths unearthed. Until next mystery, Croatoan calls eternally.